Thank you, Senator Blackburn. Thank you for respecting that time. We're going to hear from Senator Hirono now.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I asked the following two initial questions of all nominees before any of my committees, so I will ask you, starting with Mr. Sauer, and we'll just go right down the line. Since you became a legal adult, have you ever made unwanted requests for sexual favors or committed any verbal or physical harassment or assault of a sexual nature?
No.
No.
No, Senator.
Have you ever faced discipline or entered into a settlement related to this kind of conduct?
No.
No, Senator.
I have not, Senator.
I would like to state with regard to Mr. Rice that, for the record, that in 2023, during impeachment proceedings against Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, a Texas Ranger testified that there were, quote, many complaints of sexual harassment by female employees, end quote, about Mr. Rice when he worked in the Texas Attorney General's office. And I will have further questions for the record regarding these complaints. For Ms. Dhillon, relating to Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, I think that your position is that Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act requires actual discrimination and basically discriminatory intent before it will be deemed unconstitutional under Section 2. Is that correct? Is that your view of Section 2, Voting Rights Act?
I would say, to generalize, yes, it is.
So that means that unless there's discriminatory intent, unless, say, state legislature says, yes, we are about to enact legislation that will discriminate against a group, you do not think that Section 2 applies?
I disagree with your characterization, Senator. There are many ways to prove intent other than a blanket statement from a state legislature. And
Ms. Rice, let me mention that under President Trump's Attorney General, Merrick Garland, they've filed a number of lawsuits under Section 2. For example, a law prohibiting civil groups from providing food or water to people who are standing in line to vote. There was no discriminatory intent. Would you have filed that lawsuit against that law?
Senator, I haven't had the opportunity to study all of the facts underlying those prosecutions by the Biden Department of Justice.
Well, excuse me, you know what, Merrick Garland also filed a lawsuit under Section 2, state law limiting counties' use of absentee ballot drop boxes. So there are a number of these kinds of voting rights laws that the states enacted after Shelby County, and in fact 13 states very immediately passed all kinds of laws that made it a lot tougher to vote. So I'm just wondering, how are you going to decide which ones to go after? I mean, these obviously have the effect of discrimination against certain groups, making it harder for them to vote. How would you decide which of these kinds of voting rights laws enacted by states without, the obvious smoking gun?
Well, Senator, I have to disagree with the premise of your question that all of these measures that Georgia and other states took to improve confidence of all citizens in voting, in fact, had any form of discriminatory impact.
Excuse me, I only have a minute. I mean, obviously, there is disagreement. That is the crux, isn't it, as to whether or not these laws actually have an anti-discriminatory effect, and you obviously do not think so. For Mr. Rights, you stated in one of your many tweets, in fact, there are thousands of tweets that you deleted before your nomination, and we could go over some of them. They're quite astounding, but one of them said, birthright citizenship is not a thing. Is birthright citizenship in the Constitution? Yes or no? Yes or no?
Thank you, Senator Hirono. I think that there are reasonable debates to be had about the meaning and application and scope of what is commonly called birthright citizenship in the 14th Amendment.
Well, actually, since it's been 130 years where this particular provision has been deemed to confer birthright citizenship, and not in the way that President Trump views it, and apparently not you. So when we start talking about, the rule of law and that you all would follow the rule of law, I do wonder what constitutes rule of law in your mind, because after President Trump issued all of his executive orders, some 70 lawsuits have been filed challenging the legality of his executive orders. So legality is often in the minds and eyes of the beholder. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hirono. We'll turn to Senator Britt.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Just want to say congratulations to each and every one of you.